On this episode of the podcast, we talk about a super secret ninja tactic for getting hired. We also talk about why you need a like-minded community to thrive in your video business, and also how to build a great team. All this and more on episode 275 of the Grow Your Video Business podcast. Let's go. What's up, friend? Hey, I'm Ryan Coral from Studio Sherpas, and this is the Grow Your Video Business podcast, the show for corporate and commercial filmmakers that are wanting to build a business without burning out. As a commercial filmmaker and business owner myself for the past 17 years, my hope is to help guide the way by sharing my own successes and failures for how I've built a 7-figure video production company while working less than 40 hours a week and without the help of social media, Facebook ads, and cold calling. I'm thrilled that you are here, and before we jump into this interview, I'd like to share with you a process that I've created and have used for almost a decade. I'd say it's like tried and true, but this process has helped us land our biggest clients. It is my step-by-step cheat sheet for how we take our clients from the initial call to getting them to want to book us. That sounds too good to be true. Well, you know, it probably is. This is the method that we use on our discovery calls, in our client meetings, when I've been intimidated sitting across from a CEO or the person that's in charge of signing off on this video that I'm going to tell them costs $20,000 or $50,000. This is the format that I've been using for a long time, and it is the thing that was missing early on in my career that I wish I would have had. I would love for you to have this free gift. It's called the Ascend Method, and you can download the cheat sheet and get access to a video that I put together to kind of walk you through the Ascend Method. Go to studiosherpas.com/ascend, and you can start applying the Ascend Method today. So if you have discovery calls scheduled for later today, watch the video, go through the cheat sheet, reference the cheat sheet as you go through your calls. It's my gift to you. Download it at studiosherpas.com/ascend. Now, let's get into today's episode. Here we go. What's up, friends? Hey, welcome to this episode of the show. With me today is my homie, Tim Lapointe, who is the lead filmmaker at Bell Shoals Church in Brandon, Florida. Tim, let's not talk about the weather because I'll hate you, but just kidding. I wouldn't hate you, but welcome to the show, man.
Hey, it's all right. If I'm honest, I'm from the north, actually, so the weather is not necessarily my favorite here. It's a little too warm for March for my tasting.
A little too warm, yeah.
Yeah, but you know, I guess I should keep my mouth shut. There's other people who would take the 85 degrees right now. So
yeah, it's like freezing rain right now here. So and,
oh man,
yeah, looking forward to my next trip to Florida soon.
Yeah, hey, anytime. Let me know when you're in the area.
So Tim, let's just talk a little bit about your video journey. So you're working full time at a church. Have you always been a full time video guy at a church? How did that come about?
No, so I trying to shorten the story, but I worked at, I went to school at a Bible college, small Bible college in South Carolina. When I was there, I interned at a church. And no offense to anybody who may be listening to this that worked at that church. It wasn't them, but I just wasn't really interested in working in ministry work. I just needed an internship, and that's what opened up. So I graduated college, had dreams of making movies. And that plans changed just due to our family situation at the time. I was married with a baby at the time. That just wasn't going to work out. So I moved to the Charlotte, North Carolina area. My wife had family in the area. And I ended up getting a great job at a startup creative agency. And so it was a guy who was running it, had run another creative agency in the area, so he had a lot of experience with it. Incredibly talented person to work for. And he said, hey, I need a video guy for this startup. So I started there. I worked there for a few years, learned a lot. It was just a great atmosphere to try things, to experiment with things. We did a huge variety of genres of videos, from music videos to corporate work to documentaries to sports stuff. So got to really get a good mix of experience on a bunch of different stuff, which for somebody pretty fresh out of college, that was huge for me. And that gave me the confidence. A couple years later, I was doing a little more ministry work. My church had asked me to help them out with some projects. There were some international ministries I started working with, and I just got to the point where I couldn't really balance both. I couldn't balance the full-time job that I was doing and the ministry work that I was doing. And so I left. That was probably, I think it was back in 2019 is when that was. So I jumped out, started freelancing, I found a guy in my church who needed some video projects monthly. So started working with him, made sure I had that little safety net to jump into, and then freelanced for about a year and a half. And then somebody at Bell Shoals, the church that I'm working at, reached out to me, said, "Hey, we're hiring a lead filmmaker." I was not interested at all. If I'm honest, and don't worry, I've told them that too. But as a person of faith, just really felt like God was making it really clear that I was supposed to come down to Florida and work at this church. So I left freelance. Left full-time freelance, I should say, and worked at the church, and still currently do freelance, mostly in the editing side, online courses, things like that. But yeah, that's where I'm at now.
That's awesome. So what are your responsibilities? Are you the lead video director? What does that look like?
Yeah. So
okay, let me just I'm going to take a guess. If you're the main or one of the only ones, you're probably doing the work of like 4 people, maybe more. Am I close to?
Yeah. Yeah, so it definitely feels that way sometimes, that it's a lot of roles, but we really have a really amazing creative team. It's a fairly new team. It's only been around for about a year and a half or so, but we have even things like we have a composer on staff, which is amazing to me. So there's a lot of different fun things like that I've never had the opportunity of doing before. But yeah, to my responsibilities, pretty much anything video. I don't do a whole lot with the live stream aspect of it. We have a tech director who's more in charge of that. But the video stuff, it could be, announcement videos, Instagram videos, documentaries, music videos, pretty much anything video that we're putting out, I'm at least in some way connected to. We have another content specialist on the team who sometimes takes on, like the Instagram stuff or things like that. So it's nice to not always have to be super hands-on with it. But definitely have a role to play in pretty much anything video that we do.
So what's your actual job title or your main responsibility? Is it managing the creative or something different?
Yeah, so I'm under our creative strategy pastor, so the entire creative department is run by him. I'm over the whole video department, so my title is lead filmmaker. So anybody that's working on videos, I'm working with them, helping them figure out, is this... just what's the best way to go about doing this video, or at least just sometimes it's just watching it, making sure it's good to go, reviewing videos. Pretty much I'm in charge of all the gear, like any rentals that we need. Sometimes we bring in outside crew, so bringing those guys on, managing the budget, managing the expenses for things like that we're doing. A lot of times I'm involved in the scripting process. Sometimes we have other people that work on the scripts. I direct voiceover sessions for projects like that. So again, just kind of mostly just overseeing everything video. But that is oftentimes very hands-on. Like we have an Easter project that we're shooting tomorrow, and we don't have a DP for that one. So I'll be shooting that myself, and I'll be editing that one. So, but we have another project that a team member was working on today where we took a sermon clip and she edited it and she's sending it to our social media person. So that's a lot more hands-off for me.
Yeah. So if there was one job out of all of those that you're just like, you could do nonstop all the time, which would it be?
I would love to direct, really. And I don't always get a lot of opportunities to just direct. We had a music video shoot that we did. we had a music video shoot that we did a few months ago where I did have that opportunity to direct the set and kind of work with our band there. We just did a sermon bumper that was kind of in a way almost more of a short film. Directing's a lot of fun to me, especially when you have a good crew around you and can be a little more hands off with it. But I love thinking through the blocking, through the set design, this is the tone shift here, so the actor's got to do this here. And I feel like when I'm directing, I'm a little more hands-on with all aspects of production, but I can let go of a lot of it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's cool. As you think about, all the different things that have led up to this point, you've got this position now. Who knows what you'll be doing 5 years, 10 years from now? But do you have a dream? Like, do you have, like, if you could just wave a wand and say, like, man, in 3 years, if I was doing this would be the dream, and I won't send this to your boss, and whether he or she listens to this, whatever.
No worries. I feel like I've made it pretty known. Yeah. And I've been talking with my wife about this a lot lately. What got me into video was when I was 10 years old, I watched Lord of the Rings and was obsessed with it. And Peter Jackson said in one of the behind the scenes, which, yes, I watched all of those. But he said, I made these movies for the youth because they're the future of cinema. And I think I've come to realize now that my dream of making movies isn't just this dream as a kid of like, oh yeah, one day, maybe I'll make movies, that'd be fun. But like, no, I want to put in the steps to get to that process. So that's really where I'd love to be down the line, is directing films. I've worked on a couple narratives now, and that seems to be the spot where I just absolutely thrive. It brings me the most joy. It's where work feels the least like work.
I love that, dude. That's super cool. Those stories are incredible. The films were so, oh man, I was telling my son, I remember in college, that I don't know if it's the first one. One of them came out like before, like it had like a ticker on the bottom. It was like, you should not be watching this, basically. And I don't remember if I watched the whole thing or not, but regardless, I read the books before I watched each one, and it was just a cool experience. Yeah. It's one of those deals where, the book is obviously better than the films, but the films themselves were just incredible. The story just makes it so powerful. And I can see where that dream would kind of come from, because they are so inspirational. What do you feel like, what are the steps? Like, how do you get to that place of doing the dream, living the dream?
Yeah, that's a really good question, because I've asked myself that a lot. Before my wife and I got married, we were dating, I was in college, and I thought, man, I'm going to go to New York City. I'm going to work as a PA. I'm going to work my way up. I'm going to rub some elbows, try and make some connections to move my way up to different positions and eventually get there. And again, our lives kind of changed. We got married, we got pregnant. I was like, I don't really think I want to feed my family on instant mashed potatoes in a tiny New York City apartment. And at that point, honestly, I kind of felt like maybe that's it. Maybe the dream's gone. Maybe I'm going to work at a creative studio or own my own video business or something like that. And maybe that won't happen. I've found, though, that pretty much every project I've worked on has in some way led to me getting closer to that goal. Now, some of them more so than others. But I think we have it in our minds sometimes that there's one way to get to a destination, especially when it comes with our video businesses or our careers. Like, man, I've got to go for some people, it's I got to go to college. Maybe if I don't study film, I study business, and I'm going to learn all the ins and outs. And then once I do that, I got to establish my business, and then I'll start on the smaller projects and work my way up. And then once I get to that point, I won't work on the smaller projects anymore. But I've found that, my path to making movies, has come from working on a variety of things. Even the weddings that I did have taught me things about making movies. So I've taken on some lesser paying projects. Like I did a documentary, feature length documentary edit, that, the pay wasn't great on it for the amount of work, but I was able to work on a feature length film. It was a documentary, but still I was able to work on a feature-length film and add that to my IMDb page and have that there. Working at the church has opened up some great doors of, I'm working with some people now who have worked on movies. In a way, a lot of our video projects are kind of micro movies in a way, in the sense that, there's a script written, there's some pre-production, there's filming for it, editing. I send it to a composer. He works on it. Then I got to work with we have a sound engineer that I'm working with. So there's a lot of those, even though they're on a much, much, much smaller scale. I try to be really intentional with those projects, with those moments of those projects, to kind of just establish processes that I can then use on a much larger scale when hopefully I'm making feature films.
I love that. That's a great perspective that you have, because I think we can easily get bogged down in the, if I'm flipping burgers or washing dishes or, whatever. Those are actually, I didn't flip burgers. I flipped pizzas. I did wash dishes. That was my first paying job. Cut grass, like all of those things, like having that perspective of like, these little Instagram videos or, just like whatever. If we can look at the opportunities that we're given and try to learn and grow from those experiences. I think that my days working in the kitchen were like, I never want to do this for a living, and like that was one of my big takeaways from there. So it's like, okay, well, what does that mean for my life? My 14-year-old son, he's washing dishes at a restaurant right now. And, we're asking him those same questions like, hey man, like if you don't get your grades up, you're going to have limited opportunities. And, there's so many, you have a lot more opportunities if you can, work hard in these different areas. And so just in the same way that the opportunities that you're given, to be thinking, to have a dream of like, hey man, I would love to like one day be doing this, this is the dream. And for you to, be approaching all of the opportunities that you're given, whether it's big or small, and saying like, how can this apply? And maybe there's a way for me to do this small job in a way that actually could help, could be something that propels me, into this future opportunity. I love that, dude.
Well, and, to that point, I think back to, when I was in college, I worked at a news station. And the news station gave me the opportunity to put something on a resume that then was a stepping stone to me eventually working at the creative agency. And even before I worked at the creative agency, I didn't have a job for a while. I worked for a bounce house company, which you would think, hey, how does that set you up for making movies one day? But I learned a lot about hard work. I learned a lot about work ethic. I learned that I needed to grow up at the time. And those set me up for better success when I got the creative agency job. And the creative agency job, again, it was a great piece on the resume, but also set me up for projects that I'm working on now where people ask me, hey, like, do you have experience with this? Yeah, I actually do. I got a bunch of experience doing that. I was trying to think of an example before I hopped on here of what that looks like. When I was growing up in New Hampshire, we would go to the big fair. And I remember trying to navigate through the foot traffic is absolutely insane. If you stand still, you'll never get to where you're needing to go. Sometimes to get through the foot traffic, you've got to take a left turn, a right turn. You've got to walk in the semi-wrong direction, or it seems like the wrong direction, to actually move forward. But if you can't move forward, you've got to move somehow. So I just try and remind myself, if I'm not actively doing something, even if it's just a small step, that's important. But if I'm not making any steps at all, I'm not getting any closer to where I want to be. So even if it's a side step here, if it's taking on this project that isn't paying a lot, or it's taking on this project that seems totally unrelated to what I want to do, all of those things in a way, and you do have to be selective at times, but all of those things in a way add up to your experience, to your knowledge, and put you that much closer to where you want to be.
Yeah, I love that. That's really good. I think one of the things that we fail to do at times is think about what is the future, what is the dream, where do I want to be in 3 years, where do I want to be in 5 years, thinking like that, but then also asking that next question of like, okay, what am I doing today that's gonna get me one step closer? It feels like a sideways step or a backwards step, but regardless, identifying, okay, there needs to be some kind of a plan. And if you're stuck, in a job that you're like, I don't know how I can get there from this, then maybe it's time to reconsider that job and think of something that, even if it's a baby step, it's worth considering. So Tim, for you, you've got experience in the freelance world. I know some people want the satisfaction of like, having the security of just a job. Man, like if I could get a full-time job doing video, that would get me one step closer to being full-time freelance, which, might be the dream for some. Regardless, what's a step, if somebody is saying like, man, I would like to get more freelance work or eventually be in a spot where I am doing this work full-time, like what would be something that you would recommend to somebody in that situation?
Yeah, I don't know that it's the case for everybody. For me, I found probably greater than 75% of my freelance work through just being active in Facebook groups. Looking around for people who were looking for, there's a lot of groups you can go in. There's one called Wherespot, Video Village, tons of different groups where people are saying, hey, I need a director of photography. I need an editor for this project. You can even search on Facebook. You can search for video editor, Charlotte, North Carolina, and see if people are posting about it. That was a really huge way for me, because again, when I jumped into freelance, at that point, I had 2 kids and a wife. So I've got to put food on the table at that point, being really active in those groups. And also just making sure to network with people in your area. Even if you're not working on a project together, just getting coffee, getting lunch, and saying, this is what I do. I had one client that paid a huge amount of my 2020 bills that came about because I had connected with some people in the Charlotte area who then, when there was a Facebook post, I commented. And then a couple people who knew me, or one of them I'd actually worked with, recommended me and said, hey, he's a great guy. He does great work. And that guy ended up hiring me, and I did a ton of work for that company in 2020. So it's beyond just doing the work of looking for work, continuing to hone your craft. Don't be afraid to take on, or don't be afraid to work on personal projects, just to get better at what you're doing, to add something to your website. Nobody has to know that that's a personal project. It could have been a paid project for all they know. But also just being intentional with how you're presenting yourself and how you're connecting with people. For me, I found a lot of people were commenting and saying, hey, I'm going to send you a Facebook message. I actually decided to do something different in that I would send the message first, and then I would comment and say, hey, I sent you a message. Even something small like that I found was huge, because when you say, oh, I'm going to send you a message, especially the way that Facebook, at least currently, has their message request set up, it can be a pain to try and go look and find if you're not thinking about it at the time. But if you have already sent that message, then they know to look for that message coming. And I would just introduce myself, say, hey, I'm an editor. I have experience working on blank. And I would always try and work in whatever kind of project they were talking about. I might also list documentaries, narrative films, but I would always make sure that I said, hey, I have experience working on what you're talking about. And here's my website, here's my portfolio. Let me know how I can help your team. Sometimes even working a question into there too of, hey, you're talking about filming this spring. And I apologize if you can hear my son in the background. I am working from home right now.
He's not happy.
No, he's not. Sometimes I would end that message with a question of, hey, you're talking about this project in the spring. Like, do you have a firmer timeline? Like, even just something small that asks, hey, please send me a reply to my message. Because it can be easy to just send the info and then leave it and they don't have to reply. But if you ask them a question, you've prompted them to actually message you back.
Dude, I love those nuggets. Really helpful and smart to send that message and then comment and let them know. I mean, it's little things like that separate you, from the rest. I know there have been plenty of times where people have mentioned like, oh, in a Facebook comments, the post is, hey, looking for videographer, filmmaker, whatever. And then somebody's like, oh, Ryan Coral. And, and they mention me and then I hop in and I'm like, yeah, let me know. Let me know how I can help. What would be smarter is for me to direct message them, say like, hey, here's the contact, here's a website, blah, blah, blah. And then instead of me just being like, hey, let me know how I can help, like a real lazy answer. But I feel like a lot of times those people that post that, I don't know why, but I just assume that it's not going to be a big job. It's not going to be a project I'm going to fight for. So that's my own mistake, probably.
Yeah. Well, but for the most part, I'll entertain most job inquiries if I think it's applicable to me. Every now and then I'll look at their portfolio and be like, I don't know that I really match up with that. But even, the documentary that I did, like I said, it was a really low budget. It was a lot of work, and I thought a long time about not doing it. But because I ended up doing that project, not only did I get to say that I edited a feature-length documentary, but the director loved the work, and I'm basically like his editing guy now. So there's been a few of those that I've done that I've been like, I don't know that for whatever reason, I don't know that I love this. I don't know that I love that about it. But it's opened up doors for future work that have proved really, really fruitful.
Yeah, I love that. This might be self-serving, maybe not, but you've been around the Studio Sherpas community for a while now. I'm curious to know, like, how has that community, how's this community that we're building, how has it been helpful for you in what you're doing today or previously or whatever?
Yeah, I find that I get a lot of joy when I'm from Maine originally. It brings me a lot of joy when I meet somebody who's from Maine. Like, oh, you're from Maine. Like we share that in common. It's the same thing with the Studio Sherpas. It's, hey, like I know that we're on a similar path. For a lot of us in the Sherpas community, like it may vary of what we do or how we do or why we do. But I know that we have that in common. There's a common denominator there. I've talked with some people in the group offline, on separate calls, and even not all of them have turned into work, but just good connections I think it's really important to connect with people who have similar visions, similar ideas, because even at the very least, you just find out that you're not doing it alone. So that's the biggest thing for me with the community, is just been with people of, you've got a similar mindset that I do. It feels like a safe space where I can ask questions or reach out to people or add somebody on Facebook, or like if I were to connect with somebody in the Tampa area that I had nothing in common with, that's great. I'm not super jazzed up about getting into that relationship because I don't have anything in common with them. I actually recently connected with somebody who is in the Sherpas community, who is in the Tampa area, and I'm way more excited about it because I'm like, hey, like we have this in common. So for me, that's been huge. And even I did the 5-day workshop last year, which was really big for just opening my mindset to the way that I thought about my business, the way that I wanted to run it. Even though, for me, a lot of it's freelancing right now, it shifted my perspective on how I want to go about using video to make money. So just the resources that are available in the community have been really big.
That's awesome. Love hearing that. I knew you'd have something good to say. That's why I wanted to ask that one. So what are you excited about? Like what's got you, I think you used the word jazzed. What's got you jazzed up?
Yeah.
Jazzed up?
Yeah, jazzed up. Yeah, I've been working that word into my conversation a lot more lately. Not intentionally, but I do love jazz, so it works. Man, I'm really excited we've got some really fun Easter projects coming up at the church. One I'm going to be shooting tomorrow where there's a lot of creative freedom to it, and those are always fun, where you can just kind of have a lot of fun with it and see where it goes. I'm really excited about the direction of what we're doing at the church with video. And even I've only been there about 7 or 8 months. But there's some really exciting possibilities and potentials coming up. We got a great team that I love working with every single week. I'm just really excited about where I am with my family here in Florida. Florida's a fun spot to be. I'm really grateful and this is just a small little nugget there, by the way, but to have a wife who really supports me and just advocates for what I do and understands what I do, and is just a great part of the team. So by the way, if you're looking, should I marry this person or not? Will they support what you're doing and your dreams? Find somebody like my wife. She's incredible. So excited to just see where video goes. Like we talked about, there might be a left turn coming up. I don't know. But I'm excited to keep doing what I love, keep making videos, keep making films, and to keep doing it with a lot of really incredible people.
That's cool. Yeah, she definitely is supporting you as she's like juggling 3 kids and trying to get dinner ready as you're like, I'm hanging on a podcast today, babe. Like, you're going to have to give me some time here.
Yeah. Yeah, the 75% of quiet in the background of this podcast has been made possible by my incredible sponsor, Tim Lapointe. So
2 points for Allie, or probably a lot more points than that.
Yeah, a lot more.
I think what I would love for as we wind down here, I think that your experience working with a team, you've brought up the team a few times. So whether you're wanting to get into video, wanting to work for somebody, or even start your own gig, like the best experiences come when people hire you, whether that's a client or it's a director that needs a DP or it's a director that needs an editor. Like what are some of the most important characteristics that you see in the team that you have, the dream team that you want to create? What are a couple of those characteristics that we should have if we want to be hired, whether that's by a client or somebody else that's running a video project?
Yeah, this is something that we've kind of explored even more intentionally as a creative team recently, actually. But I love the fact that our team is really willing to speak ideas, to throw out ideas, even if they're not popular. I think our creative strategy pastor has just really done an amazing job of making it a safe space to bring up ideas. Also, just the fact that people are they're willing to fight for their ideas in a respectful way. But at the same time, they're also willing to say, and sometimes it's a challenge even for me, but to say, you know what, I don't have the best idea. And even though I love my idea, it's not the best idea. So I'm okay with that. And we're going to go with the best idea because that's what tells the story best. Everybody works together really well in a really respectful and kind way. They're also super fun to work with, which I think is really important. We can't always take our work super seriously. Sometimes we got to joke around. I have a reputation for being the dad jokester of the group now, which apparently isn't always popular, but yeah, I mean, just being really, really willing to bring your absolute best to the table every day, but also recognize that everybody else is bringing their absolute best. And that creates a trust factor. If I know that I'm bringing my best and I know that everybody else is bringing their best, I know that I can trust them. And if you don't have trust on a set, you're in a lot of trouble. So, those are a few things, but again, I think just bringing your best ideas, but also being willing to let go and say, hey, you know what? I'm going to swallow my pride a little bit. And I think the other person's idea, it seems like the team wants to go in that direction. And I'm going to be cool with that. And not only that, but I'm going to support that idea the best way that
that's really good. One, to just say, yep, mine doesn't have to be. And I'm like, I have an idea every other second. And so if I ever get stuck and feel like, well, this is this is my idea. Like, I think we should do, I think it's going to be the best. Like, it's like they just, it's fine if we don't do my idea, right? And then to take that next step, not just to accept, like, okay, we're not going to use my idea, but to support and to do whatever you can to make whoever's idea become reality. I think that's a really good golden nugget. I want to share just a quick story. When I was early on in my business, I probably was experiencing imposter syndrome on a pretty high level because I would come up with ideas, fun, goofy, like I wanted to try different things. I wanted to, I actually wanted to try coaching other videographers. I wanted to do some silly, YouTube-esque type videos. And I would throw out some ideas. And with the team that I had, I think everybody was kind of a little immature. And my ideas, people would, they would just be like, are you serious? And I'd be like, in my own insecurity, I realized that I couldn't trust this team to take my ideas, and we didn't have to do them, but the way that my ideas were received. So what you're talking about, what's being cultivated in the space that you're in, I love that. I think that's such a good quality because somebody like me, the way that I'm wired, if I can, I don't have to, it doesn't have to be my idea, but at least it needs to be received and be like, let's keep thinking. Okay, that's a lot different than just the looks I would get, and I'm so grateful to have matured, to have created core values for our team and kind of said, like, this is who we are. These are the kind of people that we want to be. And today, like, I have like zero inhibitions. Like I'll share whatever ideas. This might be dumb. I'm going to throw it out there. You guys might say it's terrible, and I'm okay if they do say it's terrible today, because I know that my team has our best interest in mind versus like their own agenda, their own insecurities, whatever that is. So I think you bring up a really good point in trying to figure out how to surround yourself with other people that you can trust with your creative, with your ideas, with your perspective. I think that's so valuable.
Yeah, well, and what it comes down to too is you have to have the same target. And you have to understand like what is with every individual project, but also as a whole, like what is the target for what we're trying to do. And if everybody's pointing towards the same target, that just makes it so much easier, but you know that you're not going to get pulled in the direction that you don't want to go.
Yeah, I love that. Tim, this has been so fun, man. How can people see some of the projects that you're working on and keep up with you?
Yeah, so for the church stuff, you can go to youtube.com and you can search for Bell Shoals Church. All our video content is up there, the music videos, the stories, the documentaries that we're doing. That's a great way to find that stuff. You can go to my website, timlapointe.com. I've got some projects up there that are separate from the church, but best way to keep up with me is on Instagram. It's just Tim_Lapointe. That's with an E on the end, the Canadian French, Lapointe. Tim_Lapointe.
Awesome. Well, this has been great. How do you want to leave us today?
Just keep pressing forward, and sometimes forward is sideways, but if it gets you forward, then it's forward. I'm grateful for the bosses that I've had that have created the space for me to go sideways sometimes. And I'm grateful for the opportunities I've had outside of companies to go sideways sometimes. But don't be discouraged if you're not working on the exact project that you want to work on. Don't be discouraged if your job isn't quite lining up. Just look for the sideways stuff and see if that's pushing you forward.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Tim. Appreciate it, brother.
All right. Thanks, Ryan.
That was a super fun interview with Tim. Thank you for hanging out for it. Remember, the show notes contain all of the links and things that we referenced throughout this episode, so feel free to reference those for your own personal clicking pleasure. If you're watching this on YouTube or Facebook, leave a comment. I would love to know what your big takeaway was from this episode. If you want to say something about the show, you can also rate the show. That's what it's called. I'm going to read. Now it's the time of the show where I'm going to read a review that was left on the podcast store, on the Apple podcast store. This is from Grayson Turner. What I'm reading, it's like this big. It's like, wow, the fact that I could read that. This is a 5-star review. He says, or she says, thought-provoking and inspirational. I know I'm going to like it already. It says, I'm currently in a job that I hate, and I'm working hard to transition into video production. The podcasts are not only inspiring me to keep working hard, but also makes me think critically about the kind of business I want to build. I recommend keeping a notebook and writing down the things that stick out as they're really helping me on my journey. That's awesome. Thank you for sharing that. If you'd like to share your own review of the show, I'll probably read it. So thank you again for submitting that. We have a free community if you want to network with other commercial filmmakers, people that are trying to build sustainable, I was going to say scalable, but yes, scalable, sustainable video businesses, want to charge more. I firmly believe in working stinking hard, but at the expense of your family and at the expense of your friends and at the expense of all of the parts of you that make you who you are. It's not worth destroying all of the things so that you can have one thing that's successful. I want to help you create a life that is built, a business that is built around your life, not the other way around. If that's you, then join our community of other people that are trying to do that too. You can go to studiosherpas.com/community to get access to that free community. You can follow us on Instagram at Grow Your Video Business or at Ryan Coral. You can email me, ryan@studiosherpas.com. If you have ideas for episodes or topics that we should cover, feel free to reach out and let me know. Would be happy to hear from you. And otherwise, I hope you have an incredibly fruitful day, whatever time of the day it is. If it's the start of your day, I hope the rest of your day is amazing. I always tell my kids when I drop them off at school in the morning, I drive 2 of them and I walk 1 of them. But each one, I tell them, make it a great day. And I hope that you make it a great day, period. I'll talk to you real soon. See ya.